What's up guys, welcome to new Unreal Engine 5 tutorial. With the release of Unreal Engine 5.6, we've got a bunch of new templates that can kickstart your projects. So I decided to create a mini series where we'll take those templates, break them down and customize them to build full games faster. In this second episode, we are diving into the third-person combat template. I will show you how to get started, what's included, and how to start making it your own. With that said, it's going to be a very easy to follow, so let's get started. So first of all, how can you go ahead and create the brand new third-person combat template? Well, you have to go into the Unreal Engine project browser, select the third-person template, and then you will see a variant drop down over here. So now you can go ahead and select the combat one and then create the brand new project. So yes, all new templates are available in the same Unreal project browser, but through this variant drop downs, which is quite cool and easy. And here it is, the brand new third-person combat template. So before diving in and breaking everything down, let's go ahead and hit play so we see what we have over here. So let me go ahead and press play, and boom, we are here. So first of all, we obviously have a quite simple but cool third-person movement. Now this time, as you can see, by default it is on strafe. So the character is always facing the direction of the camera, which is a bit different from what we have from the original third-person template from Epic Games. So we have brand new animations, which is quite cool. So let's go over here, up into the actual arena, and we can go ahead and start to do a lot of punches, which looks amazing. So yeah, as you can see, we have combos for the attacks and really cool Niagara effects and camera shakes, which just goes ahead and enhances the whole experience, which is really cool. So we go here and we have enemy AIs. Yes, it is finally the first time that we have enemy AIs by Epic Games themselves in a template. So yeah, as you can see, it's quite cool. They can charge and start to attack them, and they all kind of ragdoll around when they get hit, and also obviously when they die. So it's crazy, it's pretty cool. It's nothing too complicated, it's just cleverly built. And oh my god, I just launched that dude. I think it's the first time I've done that. Yeah, it's quite cool. And we have also health bars and just some cool gameplay. We can obviously just jump into here and we'll die and we'll respawn. So all the system is working as it should. So let's go ahead, break this down and see how it's actually built, and more importantly, how we can start to customize it to kickstart our own games. Now, first of all, I do also want to mention that I have already done a video breaking down the brand new first-person shooter template as the first episode of the series. So if you want to check that out, I will link it in the description because it is quite cool. And even though you might not be interested in that template in specific, you will learn quite a lot because Epic builds the templates quite similar. So let's go ahead and get started with the third-person combat template. So as you can see in the content browser, we got a couple of folders. The first one is the third-person folder, and this contains a simple third-person character, pretty similar to the one that we originally had as any other Unreal Engine version, but with a couple of changes and improvements. So first of all, as you can see, we have Quinn. As you can see, the materials are a bit different now, which is quite interesting, at least for this template, but nothing crazy, just a mesh, camera boom, and a follow camera with a character movement component. Basically the same setup as always, so I'm not gonna go in a lot of detail over here. But then in the event graph, we have, as you can see, the inputs summarized and organized in functions, which is quite cool. So if, for example, I open up the move function, it is over here. And before we had all of this logic outside in the event graph, so now it's a bit neater from the go, which is a quite nice thing. I think we all love when everything is a bit more organized from the go. Now over here, as you can see, we don't have pretty much any begin play. We just have a receive controller changed and event possessed. Now this one's act in the same way as a begin play if this character is your player, because as soon as you possess aka control the player, these two events will trigger and you will start to play them. And when do you usually control the players? Well, from the go, from the start. So these are basically your begin plays, okay? And what we do is simply go ahead and add the IMC default, which obviously contains all of the inputs. So to jump, move, and look around. So just the very basics of a third person movement. This blueprint, as you can see, doesn't control any point about the combat or combos or damage or anything, okay? You will see that is on a separate blueprint. This is just the base of a movement, okay? Now additionally, you also have over here the controls for mobile, or if we are on desktop. So if we are on Android or iOS, we create a touchpad kind of widget so we can control the movement from the phone, which is quite cool. And then we obviously use the mouse look control if we are back on desktop, in this case Windows or whatever it is, right? So it's cool that Epic Games is prioritizing mobile. Before, it was a bit more of a custom thing that you had to add a bit later on. But yeah, that's pretty much the third person character. I mean, that's pretty much just the OG character with a couple of improvements. But now let's actually dive into the actual character that controls all of the combat, damage, animations, ragdoll, and everything that you see over here. So that will be inside of the variant combat. And as you can see, the layout is pretty similar than in the other first person shooter template. We have a base folder at the root content folder with a base movement, but then on the variant folder we have additional controls and logic with the specific thing of the template. In this case, it is combat, right? So we go to blueprints. Yes, here we go, we have the combat character. Let's open this up. Now, a difference from this template and other templates like the first person shooter is that the parent class, as you can see, is just character. It isn't the other third person blueprint that we saw. For instance, in the first person shooter template, the character that had all of the shooting animations and all the actual logic was a child of the base character. But in this case, we start fresh once again. Why did they do this? Well, probably because they wanted a bit more control on the base movement and inputs, so it was just easier to create a character from scratch. So let's go ahead and dive into this character and see what it takes, okay? So first of all, on the viewport, we have pretty much the same things. Obviously the capsule, the mesh, the camera boom with the camera, but obviously we have extra stuff like, for example, the life bar for the widget, so we can actually see all of the health of the other players and enemies in game. And last but not least, the character movement, so we can actually move around, which is quite important. So then we obviously have the event graph, and we still have all of the movement logic up here, so we still can aim, move around. As you can see, it is exact the same code as we saw in the other blueprint, so they're just basically reusing it in this case, but adding new things on top, which is all of this stuff, right? But of course, instead of inheriting the logic from another class, they just decided to put everything together once again, probably for more control, okay? Anyway, going back over here, we can start to see a couple of differences. But before checking all that, let's actually see what Epic Games states as the combat character. Well, this blueprint can perform melee attacks and combos using NM montages. It can deal and receive damage. It can die and respawn, and uses ragdoll physics on damage and death, which are the ones that we saw when we played it, and it looks amazing. So over here we have the character initialization. So on the begin play, when the game starts, the character does the following. First of all, it goes ahead and gets the life bar, which is the health bar in middle of the player, and we turn the bar color to be green, probably because we are the player, we are not the enemy, we have health, for a couple of reasons, we'll see a bit later. Then we ensure that the health is at its max value, so we basically reset it, and then we also reset the camera distance, so it is at the correct one to begin with. And this is what the reset HP does. It basically just gets the match HP and then puts out the current and then sets the life percentage as 1. Cool, so that's basically the character initialization. Now let's actually go ahead and check out the whole code of melee attacks. Obviously I'm gonna skip a couple of things and summarize it because I'm not gonna go step by step or node by node, because these videos are more of an overview so you can learn. And obviously at the end of the day, these videos or tutorials are targeted to people that already have a basic understanding of blueprints and Unreal Engine, so we go a bit more straight to the point, if that makes sense. But going over here, we go ahead and detect if we have pressed the combo attack input. Now you might wonder, well, we didn't add any IMC over here to add this new controls. We just have the one that we began with, which is the mouse look and the default one, but we don't get anything. Well, that's because we have this separated in here, which is on the player controller. So now on the player controller, as you can see, we add the IMC combat, and this IMC has the move, look, and then some more attacks. Okay, in this case, I don't know why this one is set to none. Maybe I without noticing put it to none, but it should be fine. So yeah, we add the actual IMC combat, so now the character has the ability to detect this input. So if we go ahead and press the input, or from the touchpad in Marvel press the attack button or whatever that will be, we detect if we are attacking. If we are already attacking, we add this into the cache loop so we can trigger it a bit later. But if we are not attacking, we will go ahead and set attacking to true, combo count to 0 because we're currently attacking, and obviously play the montage. And in this case, we'll play this montage. Obviously this is just one of many. Probably we'll begin with this montage and then continue with the combo. So this is the variable that updates basically. And then we check for cache attack input out of combo. So we just check if we have more animations to play right after attacking for the first time. Let's go back up, which is over here, and we also have the attack, collision, and damage check. This is one of the most important things. I mean, this is basically where we actually implement the trace to detect the enemy and apply damage and actually have some gameplay going on, right? So we basically get a damage source bone, and we get the mesh and the socket location. So we are basically creating a sphere trace around that point, which I imagine then when we call it from the interface, it will be something as the fist, the hand, or the arm, something there that we want to apply damage into, okay? So the sphere trace, if you don't know, is basically just a invisible sphere that will appear in a specific location and it will detect objects. In this case, we are checking to detect, as you can see, pawns and wall dynamic, which are other enemies and cubes and other collisions that we can kind of bump into. And right here, if we have detected something, we will go through all the enemies or cubes or whatever it is that we have detected with our fist that we want to go ahead and apply damage, and we do that right here. We apply damage. What is the damage? Well, the melee damage, which for now is 1, and we do some calculations to apply a knockback and a counter shake, as you can see. So this is pretty cool. We do everything through interfaces, you can see over here, and it's just a cool way to communicate between other classes without having a direct reference to memory of that class. It's a bit more performant and also efficient and fast because we can apply damage into any actor that has the interface instead of only the enemy and then checking for the cube and all that stuff. So yeah, basically in here we just actually do the damage with health, do a simple knockback, which we put here through those inputs, and then the camera shake. So yeah, nothing crazy, just straightforward but real cool. And then obviously we have more interfaces to check the combo. So if we are attacking and we are charging another attack, we go and do the calculation and then go ahead and set the cache back to 0, and then we increment the combo account because we want to accumulate attacks for our combo, right? And then we obviously go ahead and get the montage jump to section, so we basically skip a section in the enemy montage. These are pre-default Unreal nodes. If we continue over here, we can also charge an attack, which is, I don't know if it was holding on the left mouse button or the right mouse button, I don't remember honestly, but yeah, we have another key to basically make like a stronger attack. So we do the checks if we are already attacking or not, and if we are currently doing another attack, we will basically once again add that into the cache so we can do it a bit later, and if not, we can execute it right now. So we set attack into true as we did with the basic attack. We play the montage. Once again, it will be the charge attack instead, which is this one. As you can see, it's kind of holding there, which is really cool. And then we check for the same event as before if we already have more attacks kind of on the cache, right, to be ready. And that's pretty much it. I will not go so much into detail into these systems and so on, because if not, the video will be like 2 hours, and I want to be brief and just kind of do a quick tour and overview of the template, but you get the point. It is actually quite cool. And then obviously we have the damage and health system itself. So in this case, it is for the player. So when we receive damage, right, we go ahead and do some stuff. But as you can see, we have two. What is going on? We have a enhanced damage, an interface, and then the standard damage. So what is going on? Well, Unreal Engine has a default node, which is the apply damage, which is this one here. And we basically send some damage, the damage actor, the causer, the investigator, and some stuff. But on this combo system, Epic Games made their custom one for the whole system because it's a bit more convenient, which is this one using the damageable interface. So that is the one that is over here, the one with the interface, and this button one is the one that we use always in our games as a fast way to use implement damage, which is correct. It is very correct, but if you want more flexibility, like adding knockbacks and impulses, we can do that through our custom one to make it a bit easier, right? So let's go ahead and only check the enhanced because that's the one that we're using right now, right? So if the health is bigger than 0, we want to go ahead and apply damage. And as you can see, we're doing a chain. We're actually right now going ahead and calling this one. So we are doing a quite interesting thing. We are first of all calling this one and then this one. So this is mainly to get the knockbacks and do the impulses and the damage Niagara effects. And then finally we do this one to actually affect our health, HP, and all that stuff. Okay, so apart from doing that, so let's continue and ignore the other chain by now. But we add the impulse to add like a little knockback with the inputs that we get, and then we also add a Niagara effect. And this Niagara effect is basically just a bit of a simple burst, right? I think it's kind of even default. It's not nothing crazy, but it's pretty cool. And then we go ahead and also add an impulse at the location in case we have like a box or other stuff, right? So not only players but also stuff. And then obviously we are at the same time calling for ourselves the event damage, where we actually calculate the difference in health, where we handle the death if we die, but if not, we update the life bar, which is this one over here that we showcase at the start. It's not visible right now, but on gameplay it is obviously. And we simply update the health bar essentially. And then obviously we do things for the simulation of physics. So we punch and it kind of has a knockback with physics, like ragdolling, but without having the whole body set. Camera shakes and a lot of stuff. But we check the handle death. This is simply interface, right? Which we call and implement over here. So what happens if we die? Well, we go ahead and disable the input for this player first of all, then we go ahead and enable the ragdoll on the entire skeleton. As a difference, on here we were only doing it for 50%, as you can see, of the body. Here is the whole thing. We want to use simulate physics, and then we have some more stuff for only simulating from the pelvis upwards and downwards, but it is disconnected. I literally did not touch anything, so you will probably have it like this. So yeah, by default, just okay, let's just simulate the whole body. And then we also hide the health bar, once again the one here, because obviously we don't need it anymore. The health is 0, so disable that. It will be ugly if we leave it there. And then we push the camera back so that we have kind of a depth view and more like an actual game, and it's more polished and it's cool, you know. And then at the end, we wait the respawn time, which is 3 seconds, destroy the actor, and then the other stuff like the game mode and the player controller and things like that will make sure to respawn the player back in. And that's it. That's pretty much the combat character. Nothing crazy. We also have a couple of functions, but nothing crazy. And I think that's pretty much everything covered as a whole for the blueprint of the player characters, which is quite cool. But we haven't finished. We have, yeah, a couple more stuff. Apart from that, we obviously have some classes for the interfaces, that we have already seen them. We have some interactables, like for example the dummy, which has some basic logic. If we go to the Venn graph, we just have the same damage interface to apply the impulse and the Niagara effect. So yeah, simple stuff, pretty much what we did with players too, but for the dummies, so it's a bit cooler. And if we were to check the damage box, it's pretty much the same, but we do a bit more stuff because we want to optimize the physics of the thing. So we check if it's currently alive and if there's a destruction to destroy the box, and we update the materials with a fade. It's a bit more advanced. I will not go in depth into this specific box because I think it's not, you know, super priority compared to other stuff that I want to go through, but they're basically these boxes, and as you can see, it changes kind of the color. They fade. I don't know if it's happening right now, but they do change color and things. So, oh, there we go. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But anyway, going back into the main blueprint, we have here the AI, which is one of the main things, obviously. Now you will see and notice one thing, which is they're using state trees instead of behavior trees, like that are just more known, right? So what are state trees? Well, state trees is just a new way of doing AI or just logic in Unreal. So you're not only limited to do AI, but also logic. Now, I do have an introductory video to state trees, so if you want to check that out, check in the description. But basically, it's quite new. It was introduced a couple of versions back. It's not so popular because simply a lot of people don't even know it exists, and then there's not many resources online about it, and it's a bit more niche. But yeah, it seems that Epic wants to push it, and I mean, it's kind of simpler to read than behavior trees, and probably easier to expand the behavior trees. But behavior trees are just, man, they're just behavior trees, so we all know kind of how to use them, and it's kind of more straightforward. But yeah, in here they have a hierarchical kind of structure with different states, and I'm not gonna go very in depth into the whole AI system, but essentially, as you can see, we have the whole states over here, which is if it's dead, we can select behave as random, if we are launched, and then default. Okay, so for example, we have different states that we can randomly pick. Well, the AI can randomly pick. We have attacking, idling, and flanking, which is kind of moving to the next point and surrounding the player and things like that, right? Kind of move around essentially. But yeah, the attacking is kind of going into the player target, and here is where the actual thing goes and executes, which in the actual tasks. I think I can edit from here. I don't know, there's a way I can open it up actually, but yes, it has tasks, which are this ones. This one in specific is the move tool. So where is this? Yeah, what's the name? Get player info. Oh, here it is. Sorry, my bad, I didn't see it. I was like, where is this task? Yeah, so in the event tick of this execution, we get the player location, right, of the player that we are targeting, and we get distance, and we basically enable the AI to move closer, and then obviously after this we actually attack. So we have the melee attack, where we have the combo and the charge attack, and we have its own tags for this. In here we can actually open it up directly, which is cooler. So when we enter the state of this is pretty much the gameplay of the state. We go ahead, and if it's charged, we do the charge attack. If it's not, we don't do anything pretty much, and we go and communicate with the main player pawn, or the AI pawn, to execute all this stuff. But yeah, we have things for the combo, the charge attacks. We can move back, wait with delays, to improve the kind of flow of the combat. And we also have idling, where it doesn't pretty much do anything. Launch, if it's kind of on the air and grounded, and it kind of just goes in a loop. So yeah, state trees just go in the hierarchy from up to down with different priorities. So at any time we could exit the attacking state, which is the whole thing, and go to idling and things like that. It's quite neat, but it's more of a niche thing. But yeah, I recommend to play around with it. It's pretty cool. So going back to the AI folder, let's open up the AI controller. The AI controller, as you can see, includes the static component and also does some things like path finding. So this is what it does. You just have two components, the state tree itself, which is what we just saw. So yeah, state trees are added as components, and then the path following component. So yeah, let's actually open up now the combat enemy, which is the blueprint that has all of the logic. And this is pretty much similar to the combat player blueprint, because we have the whole thing about attacking, but obviously we do it through now purely events rather than inputs, right? So obviously the AI doesn't have inputs, they have events, because they just trigger them when they're in a state or not in the state tree, right? But as you can see, it's pretty much the same stuff. We also do the thing about playing the montage, and we call the completed, and we do the trace, which is I think exactly the same, right? And we also check for the combo if we have like a cache loop in some more attacks, and the damage and health. And damage and health, I believe, is also exactly the same, as you can see. So obviously there's gonna be a lot of things that are exactly the same because they're exactly the same logic, but with a couple differences, because the player, we can actually control them. The AI had to be driven to the state tree, so we need to adapt them to those events and tasks. But yeah, the death, I think it's also pretty much identical. We hide the thing, which is simulated physics. Yeah, it's pretty much identical. So yeah, I'm not gonna go into much detail because we kind of already went through it on the player, but as you know, it just also has the attack kind of stuff, and obviously the movement is through the state tree, so that's why it's not here. But we also have a couple of interfaces, as you can see, like the attacker and damage pool for all the attacks and damage events, which is quite cool. So yeah, the AI is quite cool, honestly. I like it a lot. And EQS is basically to move around in an intelligent form, analyzing the environment, and then we pretty much have the interactables, and that's it. Obviously there's more stuff like the VFX, but yeah, we already saw it, that's right. And it's nothing crazy, it's only like a burst of particles of white sphere. It's kind of default, honestly. And then for the UI, we just have one UI, which is quite cool, and it's quite clean, honestly. They should make it by default that all progress bars would look like this, because it looks pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, you just have an overlay, border, and a bar, and obviously this bar is just customized with some cool stuff. And actually the customization might also happen in one of the parents, but yeah, it's quite simple, and there's pretty much minimum logic here. Just we get a percent, we update the percent, we set the color, we set the color. Nothing crazy, it's just minimizing the logic that we have to execute for the UI from outside. So we can call a nice event, and the widget will occupy of those tasks. It will be better. But yeah, that is pretty much it. We kind of covered everything over here, but last but not least, how can we slightly modify some things? So for example, how will we go ahead and change the camera shake amount? Well, it will be very easy. We just want to go to the variant combat and open up the character, and we will find out the specific camera shake that we're using when we attack. In this case, as you can see, it's this one. This is on the trace where we detect the damage. So this is the camera shake base, enemy hit. Open this up, and as you can see, it's super easy. It just has these values to rotate and locate. So these are the trace axis. We have a amplitude and frequency, so we can put the amplitude to 5 and here 10, and you will see that now when I hit, not here but enemies, it will actually do like a crazy camera shake. And oh yeah, I think it's already happening. Yeah. As you can see, it's already happening, which is quite cool. So We can go here. And oh, there we go. Yeah, we have some crazy camera shake. We can even do more. We can put like 100 and 200. And the frequency is basically how often it will happen. So we can go kind of crazy with it. And yeah, we go out to the map. So you have to be careful, but that's how you can change the camera shake from this shake hit component. And you saw what I did, right? I didn't know exactly what camera shake it was with this one. So I just went for the combat character, detected the damage kind of logic, went at the end to say, oh, this is the camera shake that we play when we deal damage. This is the one that I have to modify. So you see, it's easy to kind of debug your way. If you wanted to also change the AI color of the mesh, you could simply go here, and we have the many new colors. As you can see, there are new materials, which is quite cool. So we just duplicate this one, for example, and put red. And the cool thing about these materials is that the variables are pretty much exposed. So we can go to the paint tint and put this to be red. And that's pretty much it. We just plug this in, and here it is. If you do it for the other one, it will break because obviously it has two materials for different slots. So we just have to do also red here, and the paint has to be red, and remember to apply it. Yeah, now we have red enemies, which is a bit cooler. And obviously the AI enemy doesn't appear because I think that we have to go through the door to spawn it. And there we go. Now we see the camera shake is broken because I went crazy with it. But yeah, here we go. We have the character red, which is quite cool. I think it's a bit better. And yeah, if you were wondering about the spawning of the AI, we have this door frame, and it's quite literally a blueprint, which contains the door mechanic to open up the door without a timeline, and then also spawns the AIs. So it's quite cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video and you find it helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to my channel. I have lots of Unreal Engine 5 videos out throw, so check that out. Check out the other episodes in the series. The previous one is the first-person shooter template, so check that out. You will learn a lot. And if you're interested in pretty much mastering Unreal Engine and creating insane games, join my Unreal Club. You'll learn so much. You will have access to all my project files from all my tutorials. You will have access to private meetings with me, with experts. You will be included in awesome conversations, and you will actually basically learn, which is the important thing, and actually be guided to release your games. So yeah, that's it guys. If you found this video helpful, like and subscribe, and see you soon. Bye bye.